Welcome to the Nerd Party.
I'm Darren Moser,
I'm Philip Gilfus.
I'm Daniel Prue.
and this is City Alpha 3.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SETI Alpha 3. I'm your host for this week, Daniel Prue, and joining me, as always, are my two co-hosts, Darren Moser and Philip Gilfus. Hey, guys, how was your week?
It was good. Very lazy. One of the things I did, we just sat on the couch, my wife and I, and just watched TV. But one thing that I did finish reading, it's not Star Trek, but it's sci-fi-ish. There's book clubs everywhere, but there's this Facebook book club. I forget what it's called off the top of my head. But anyway, but I've joined, and it's through a group that are some performers that I like. But anyway, long story short, they're doing their first book is Good Omens, which is now an Amazon Prime series, starring David Tennant from Doctor Who, as well as some other famous folks.
Like Armageddon's coming, and they gotta save the world.
Exactly.
Oh, that's the one with it's like a demon.
It's my first time, and I'm sure listeners will be booing me. It's the first time I've ever read Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, because they're co-authors of the book. I've never read either one of them. Now I've seen Neil Gaiman written Doctor Who episodes, but I've never read their actual. So this is my first time reading it, and so I sort of got through it in the past 3 or 4 days. Before we watched the TV series, because we're both looking forward to that. So yeah, it was very good, very interesting. Well, I'd say it was good. A 4 out of 5, I suppose. And I suppose this is always the comparison, and so I'm going to be one of those people. But it does remind me of Douglas Adams. Again, never having read any of their other works, I'm sure if I read just a Neil Gaiman book or just a Terry Pratchett, it's probably very different. But it's very British, humorist. But it was very good.
Towels?
So,
do things revolve around towels?
But they're humorous. They're humorous footnotes, which I always enjoy a good footnote that's humorous. I would if you're looking for a summer read, I'd check out Good Omens if you've never read it. It'll be a fun read.
Interesting. What about you, Darren? Anything neat going on?
Oh yeah, we had a nice weekend. My parents took the kids for a couple of days, so we got to snooze our alarm clocks and sleep in and eat at a big boy restaurant where we didn't have to worry about getting home at a certain time. So it was nice. We had a nice, relaxing time. And we saw Shazam! Exclamation point. You have to say that.
Oh, yeah. How was it?
It was pretty good. I think I was expecting a little more just because I feel a lot of people had said it was really good, so it was kind of like hyped a little, but it was decent. I think what we do when we go on dates is we do movie and a dinner, because you don't have to worry.
I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, so you do the movie first, and then you have something to talk about at dinner, and you also don't. You have an open-ended after that because you don't have to try to hit a movie time. So we found that's actually a lot more fun to do, and we were talking about the movie and just kind of what we would have changed, how we would have streamlined it. Mark Strong's a great villain because he's Mark Strong, but it was good. I think would I want to see another Shazam movie? Yeah, I think Zachary Levi did a great job, and he's obviously the breakout of that movie. But from what I knew about Shazam, it's just a lot of origin. It takes a long time for him to, kind of become the hero we know he's supposed to be. I mean, that's how all origins are. But yeah, I think I'd say a 3 out of 5 would see again.
No, nice.
Now, speaking of movie reviews, Daniel, maybe you said it and I've just missed it because I was away for the weekend, I suppose, from the computer, as the old people say. But Daniel, have I missed your Detective Pikachu review?
I don't think I posted anything about it.
Come on, you were Mr. Pokemon here in this trio.
It was good. It was good. I would give it a good. So I'd probably say 3 out of 5. Entertaining, not amazing, but there was like some things that kind of connected to the original animated movie from the late 90s, and I'm like, are they like, I don't know if they're trying to build a universe or what's going on here, but they referenced events in that game, and that
The PCU.
yeah.
Is that what we're calling it?
Well, actually, the rumor is that might be a thing that they might be working on, but I think they've actually already announced a sequel for this movie. So, but it was good and entertaining, and it was kind of bizarre to see all these Pokemon in live action. But they had a lot of fun with it, with the Pokemon and the different silly things that they did. So, yeah, I had a good time.
Was there going into it? Because again, I don't know your fandom exactly, both literally the Pokemon fandom and your Pokemon fandom specifically. What was there a Pokemon you were looking for that you got to see, and was there a Pokemon you were looking for that you didn't get to see?
No, there are so many that I guess what I was worried about would when people think about Pokemon, a lot of times they think about the first original 150 from the original game. Most people, but
It's like a Power Ranger thing. Right?
yes, exactly. But there are literally over 700. There might be over 800 at this point. So I was worried that they were going to be focusing a little heavy on the first generation stuff, and they did, but not as bad as I was worried about. So we got to see a lot of diversity in the Pokemon, and I actually thought they did a really good job. That was definitely, if you're a Pokemon fan, it's worth seeing the movie just for that, just to see these creatures in live action. So I had a good time.
Now, not to turn this into a movie review podcast, because that's not us. We have several good movie review podcasts on the network. But like the movies that are out now, there's nothing that necessarily would draw myself and my wife, because we're not huge moviegoers. We're sort of like, it has to be something like, oh, we really want to see that. Not just like, there's movies out and let's go see a movie. But I'm just like pulling up our local movie theater, which is in Chapel Hill. There's several that we go to, but that's sort of the one because they serve booze and those are our needs. But like, so Rocket Man, like if you're looking for a musical experience, I've heard that's good. Booksmart's getting all the indie nerd, thumbs up. That would be one we could possibly see. Now, this is a movie, and maybe because I don't pay attention, I hear of movies a lot, and I never know what medium they're on. Like, is it on Amazon? Is it on Netflix? For some reason, I thought this was on Netflix, not an actual movie theater. But Daniel and Darren, Daniel, I'm looking at you. What are your thoughts about Brightburn? That for some reason it was stuck in my head that was on Netflix. I'm looking, I can't find it. Oh, it's in the actual movie theater. I was like, oh, because the concept
I have to
sounds
get in a
intriguing, but I don't know if
car,
it actually...
drive to the theater.
Yeah, I don't know if it actually. I'm not that much of a DC. I'm not a DC person at all, actually. But I'm not that much of a DC. I've never even actually seen any of the new DC movies except for Wonder Woman. But the concept was interesting, so we'll definitely look forward to come out into streaming. But Daniel, I know you had thoughts about Man of Steel and all that, but at least this is sort of embracing the whole concept. What are your thoughts? Is that something you want to see, or what have you thought?
Yeah, it's the thing is that the idea has been done before. It's not terribly original. It's basically, I mean, they don't even really try to hide it. It's literally just Superman, but evil. Like, what if Superman
as a kid
had all these powers as a kid and just murdered everybody?
Because I vaguely remember, wasn't it like a Russian version of Superman?
Right, the
Red
Sun.
Sun.
Yeah.
That's a little different.
I'm not saying Russia's evil.
That's what I mean. Like, it's a little different. That's like more of a, like, looking at it politically. But this is like literally just if he's a psychopath, what would happen? Right. And it intrigued me for like a half second. Maybe I would catch it if it was on Netflix. But I don't know. The thing is, we already got murdery Superman
as an adult.
I want regular, happy-go-lucky Superman. That's what I'd like to see.
The Boy Scout Superman.
Yes. All-star Superman. Yeah. That's what I want to see in theaters. So.
Yeah, and again, I'll shut up after this. But so the Robert Pattinson Batman, whatever the casting, I don't care about that. And I would probably, I'm trying to remember what I actually saw in theaters for the Christopher Nolan trilogy. What I actually saw in theaters, and not just like on whatever home video. But anyway, I'm it's interesting. I'm always good for a new Batman movie, generally speaking. But hearing that it's going to be another trilogy, I'm like, really? Do we have to do another 3 movies? I mean, I'm fine to see what Pattinson and that group does with it, but I don't know if I want to do 3 movies again. But I guess that's how things go nowadays. Everything has to be a trilogy.
Well, when you're Batman, certainly. To bring it a little bit back to Star Trek, but something else that just was announced today. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but Apple announced their
the next OS.
Well, that as well, but that's not a really
the death of iTunes.
Really relevant. That is also good, but not relevant. They showed off their Apple TV stuff, and
The service, not necessarily the device, right?
Yes. Sorry. The new Apple TV stuff. A lot of the content that they're coming out.
Because of the death of iTunes.
Yeah. And Ron Moore is writing a show called For All Mankind, which is an alternate history where I watched the trailer where it looks like Russia made it to the moon first.
Oh,
and
I totally missed that because I didn't watch the trailer. I just saw like the little snippet, and I thought it was just another like documentary kind of thing about going to the moon. So it's
and I thought it was. I just saw Mike Okuda.
That's right.
Facebook
I saw that
it.
post, but I didn't actually watch the trailer. So it sounds like I need to do that.
Yeah, I think you'd really dig it. And basically, it's just they made it to the moon first, and the space race never ended. So it's like, and it looks like it's all period in this.
So what do we? So what happens because of that?
So they're talking. It's a 2-minute trailer, but it was
in 2 minutes, what happens?
Russia made it first, so now we need to establish a base on the moon.
Because we can't just lose.
Right, exactly. So now we need to.
You have to one up.
Exactly.
Russia.
Exactly.
Mars.
So we need to go
Come on, guys.
Yeah,
just
we need
first
to go to
planet.
Mars. Yeah. So, anyways, what I thought was interesting was as it was, the trailer was going on, it was crediting Ron. It said from the creator of Battlestar Galactica and the producer of Star Trek. And I was like, hey, they're leveraging that, which is pretty interesting. And it didn't even say
the fact that they actually are leveraging it now,
Yeah. And it didn't say TNG or Deep
Just
Space
said
Nine.
Star
it just said Star Trek. Yeah. So I was like,
Did it say it in the font that we don't like? Apparently,
no. It's just said Star Trek. So.
Well,
that was. I just thought it was interesting, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I don't know. Maybe I'm not. But anyway, the Star Trek Picard. I know we already talked about it last week.
Wait, that's what they're calling it? I can't believe it.
But the graphics, it's using the TOS Star Trek.
Right.
Font,
That's what I was referring to. Yeah.
But I thought it was. I mean, isn't that odd? Or don't you? I mean,
I think it's the universal branding now. That's the branding of Star Trek. If you look at like Think Geek's website and it has all the branding, you have Star Wars and Star Trek and Battlestar and Doctor Who. I mean, hey, you want to talk about changing fonts, Philip? Doctor Who changes their logo every 6 days.
Well, they do, but they don't go back to the 1960s one.
True.
Like we're doing now.
But yeah, I think their thought is just that's Star Trek.
Because I would think that. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I just notice it though. That. Because Picard, wouldn't you go with the Next Generation font?
Yeah.
But even, I see what you're saying, Philip, and I kind of noticed that and was like a little off put, but then I'm like, well, all the movies had different fonts too at this point.
Well, all the series had different fonts. I mean, DS9 and Voyager.
I mean, even Discovery.
And the movies did. Yeah, like you said, did.
I'm not a fontist. That's not the word. But anyway.
Stop flaunting your fonts.
I know.
Okay.
In my head, if I visualize it, Discovery is not TOS, the font, but I can see where they're tipping
it's
their hat
close.
to
Yeah,
it.
the R is a little different,
The Star Trek part of it is fairly close, I'd say. At least
but that also makes more sense in the time takes place.
Yes, but I also think you were.
But this is future Star Trek. This is our first.
I was going to say I kind of
ever.
also agree with what Darren was saying, where it's like I think now that's just going to be everything's going, no matter what it is, it's just going to be branded with that. The same thing with we're going back to the same. The Delta Shield and stuff like that. This, we're getting rid of or at least, who knows?
If I don't see the United Federation of Planets logo in a gear, I'm gonna be pissed.
Yeah, well, we know it's Alex is in charge, so we'll see. But
because of course the graphic, not the font, but the picture of Star Trek Picard with the winery thing. Has the TOS
but
Delta
that's just
as the command
the
logo
thing
inside.
though. That's the Delta Shield
weird.
and that font that's the branding of Star Trek, and it's a single poster. Yeah, it's now I want to see that drone flying around enough to make the comm badge circular backdrop. It just
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
Anyway, sorry.
So yeah, that was interesting. 18 different tangents that we just took in
well,
5
back
minutes
to the
again,
Pokemon tangent. I wanted to show you. I was cleaning my garage, Daniel, and I found my Scry magazine 1999 April, and so these are my plans for the decks. This is my Pokemon battle chart on what types do best against what other types, and I found my Pokemon cards.
He's coming for you, Daniel.
Look, I'm gonna throw down a Cubone and
From
hit it with
25 years ago.
plus power and What do you mean these are all not canon anymore and you can't play with them?
If he's throwing down a Cubone, I don't think I have anything to
What do you
worry
mean
about.
they're not legal anymore?
Is this while you're reading your communicator? You're playing Pokemon?
I have this one shelf. It's stuck in the 90s. It can't get out.
Also, I'm an actual the video game player. I did dabble in the card stuff, but there are people that are really, really, really heavy into it.
So Daniel, then what is the
You just don't have the
golden
heart of the
age?
cards, Daniel. So
What is the golden age platform for you for Pokemon?
That's an interesting question. I don't know. I mean, Pokemon is a game is generally getting better. I mean, ebbs and flows, but it's exciting every time a new one comes out. So I'm really looking forward to the new ones that have been announced. Did you know? Little fun fact for you: Pokemon is the largest, is the most profitable single franchise in the world of anything media franchise.
It's big in Asia, I hear.
Yeah, it's big all over the place. So, anyways, let's not talk about Pokemon. We haven't even touched on our subject yet. Actually, Darren mentioned it a little bit earlier, which I thought
I don't
was a
think
little
we
funny.
were recording yet, though. So
No. You actually mentioned that you had a weekend away from your children.
Oh, yes. A childless weekend.
So, but what I wanted to do in
so we're talking
celebration...
about the Cradle episode where the children are gone? Is that what we're talking about, Daniel?
God, no, we're not talking about that. Although I guess we could. In celebration of... It's just an American thing, right? Yeah, so American Father's
Only
Day?
American
Only Americans
fathers may
have
celebrate.
Well, no,
father.
but I'm saying it like this upcoming
Yes.
weekend is only American.
Yeah.
But so it's, here in America, we'll be celebrating Father's Day. So I wanted to, I thought it'd be fun to talk about all the different fathers in Star Trek. And I started going down a list.
In no
and-
particular order, because
So, I mean, Gene Roddenberry, the father of Star Trek, if you will.
No, we won't be doing any of the creative stuff, just the characters.
He was a character. Not many people know this.
I've heard. So of the three of us, Darren is the only one that is an actual father. So first of all, happy upcoming Father's Day to you, Darren.
thank you.
Yes, happy upcoming Father's Day.
And I'm going to toss it up to you, but I think we're going to do it how we normally tend to do these things, in canon. I was going to say canonological. That's not a word.
That's totally a word.
No,
It's a
I'm
word
going
now.
with it. I'm going with that.
Canon order. So we will start with Enterprise. So we never met Henry Archer. I don't think, right? We never actually saw him.
No, well, we did the first episode.
Was he in it? I don't remember that.
Yeah, the first episode because little
when he was
Johnny is
little
with the toy airplane.
Yes. You're right.
You gotta don't put the repulsor lift upside down, son, or that'll crash.
Yeah, that's right. The opening scene.
Remember, fly into the storm.
So
That's the advice he got from his dad.
So
Not the best advice when you're actually flying a starship. Just being clear.
Yeah, especially if it's a plasma storm or a whatever. But yeah,
Dad
so
said fly into the storm. Sir, I don't think he meant here and now in deep space. Yeah, no.
we don't really get to know the character, but he certainly has an impact on the show. So we'll start with that. What do you guys think about the whole? This is really the first, and what I was thinking about it. Luckily, I think, unlike some other franchises, Star Trek doesn't have a ton. It does have some, but a ton of daddy issues. But I think this is probably one of the bigger ones where we have to deal with this sort of arc over the whole thing. But what did you guys...
Or Archer.
Yeah, what did you guys think of the Archer and his living in the shadow of his father and his wonderful accomplishments?
Well, I think that was sort of, in some ways, but I think maybe if I watched it again, like that's almost the thesis of really the whole show. I mean, the thesis of the whole show is, building towards the Federation bubble, but like as a character level, it's Jonathan defending his father.
His father's
the first
engine.
episode.
I mean,
Yeah, because his father is the father of the Warp 5 engine. And so, of humanities, space exploration, of going past Warp 1 and Warp 2 and all that, going to Warp 5 and being a space exploration power, if you will. But, he's very defensive because, the Vulcans stopped his dad from, whatever, being even more successful, going Warp 5.5.
or just delayed it.
But yeah,
I
I mean,
mean,
that's-
I think he wanted his father to see it, but he didn't.
And so he's proving himself. I mean, Jonathan would argue that he's proving what humanity can do, but really proving what his dad could have done.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing I when I was just thinking about it and recollecting, I was like, I wish we did get like a flashback scene or a time travel something just so we got to know him better because
Like in-game style.
yeah, because he we don't know anything good about him, like personable about him. We don't know anything
Right.
like what was his relationship with his father like. We just know
Did he like water polo?
Yeah, maybe that was
We
a
know
thing.
more about
Yeah,
how much
exactly.
Archer likes water polo than we do about his relationship with his father.
Right. And if it's supposed to be, like Philip was mentioning, such a huge motivation for the character, I feel like it was like an establishing fact that existed in the background, but never really got like that story never came out. Then we never really got to learn about it or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been. I mean, because we had First Flight, and that was a good flashback episode. So you don't want to go to that well too often. But it would have been interesting if maybe there was some time travel or whatever of where he goes to see his dad developing, fighting with. I mean, I don't know, because then you have Zephyr Cochrane, and you can't really, because
Yeah.
I'm sure what's his face is busy.
James Cromwell.
Yeah, James Cromwell. But anyway, so maybe he's not. I don't know. He did the first episode, so he's available apparently. But yeah, that would have been interesting. And because again, like you said, what's the relationship? Was it sort of like this would be very stereotypical for writing a TV show, like where Jonathan rejected him, and I'm not gonna be a scientist or whatever. I don't care about space. And then his dad dies, and then he goes and embraces what his dad's legacy was. That's very stereotypical, kind of a Chakotay thing, almost. If you want to know Chakotay's daddy issue,
Which we'll get to.
from Voyager. Yeah. So, but anyways, yeah, it would have been interesting. And also, I don't think I'm sure we heard about his mom. I don't know, but it would have been interesting with what was Henry Archer's relationship with his wife.
I don't think we ever hear anything about his mom.
Yeah, I don't remember a single thing.
Now, of course, this is the 22nd century. That's not saying there has to be a wife. Maybe just adopted a son for all we know. Who knows? But
That actually would be pretty interesting. What I would have liked, yeah, like I agree with you, Philip. I could definitely see them going down the well of like they hated each other's guts or whatever, and that would be kind of tiring.
You were always
boring.
dedicated to that engine. You loved it more than me.
Yeah, I would have liked to have
That's
seen.
right.
It would have been nice.
and like at like during Gamma Shift, Archer goes down to the engine room and like talks to the engine like it's his older
jeez.
brother or older sister.
Yeah, no, it would have been.
I'd like to
Sir, are
go on.
you okay, sir?
It would have been nice if they like had a a normal healthy relationship, and then I mean I guess that doesn't really make for great TV, but
but I don't. I mean, and I'm not trying to skip ahead, but an example of a good healthy relationship making good TV would be Worf's adopted father and mother. That was great family.
You're
That was a
skipping
great scene.
ahead, Philip.
I know, but I'm just saying conflict doesn't always necessarily. I mean, there's conflict of what they're dealing with Worf, but the solid. I mean, I remember, and I've probably said this before. I love family. Favorite TNG episode. Favorite Star Trek episode of all time. I don't know how to think about it, but I tell myself I'm watching for the Picard and Robert scene at the end, but then that Worf scene.
Yeah.
Always
Oh, it's
gets-
such
yeah.
a good scene.
it is. But
anyway,
we will
sorry.
get to that. So we'll keep moving on. And here's the thing: I was thinking about this. Enterprise has a pretty young crew, so
Now is Trip count as a father or a mother?
I
Daniel?
was gonna bring up. Well, Trip counts as both, technically,
Right.
right? So, but we'll talk. We can bring up the Trip because the baby was born.
That's true.
Second to last episode, right? Wasn't
I was talking about the earlier.
I know
I
you
was
were talking
thinking
about
next to
yeah.
Travis
Skip.
because we meet his family on the horizon and we get a little
That's
bit
true.
of. I'm just saying a little
Daddy
yeah,
issue.
just like
He has
kind
a
of
daddy
like
issue,
growing up and moving away from home and doing what you want to do versus what your family expects you to do. Like that was an interesting arc, I thought. Because he's
Now,
a
Dan,
boomer.
Did you know Travis was a boomer? No, did you know that?
You guys did the thing. You
Spa-
did the same thing.
Star Trek bingo right there, center square. Travis is boomer.
I had actually completely forgotten about. I mean, about.
Travis being
Yeah,
a boomer.
how could you forget that? They mention it in every other episode. No, I know what you mean. About that he actually sees his father.
Yeah. That was
The
actually,
Horizon.
and that was a solid little mini arc.
Yeah.
it was pretty good.
Look,
That's a totally.
It's got to have the
realistic-
payoff or the setup of every other episode. He's a boomer. We got to see. Don't just tell us. Show us.
Yeah, that's a totally realistic father-son dynamic.
Yeah, that was cool.
I was, and I'm not trying to go through every character, but I was trying to think. With T'Pol, she had mommy issues. I got it. what was the deal with her dad? I mean, because he wasn't around, right?
I don't know. Oh,
Probably. I'm gonna guess part of the Vulcan Science Academy. Just throwing it out there. That's probably where he was.
But was he dead? Or
No, I almost for some reason remember that they were divorced or something, and I thought that was really strange because I didn't know that was like a.
I was gonna say, I didn't know that they.
Well,
could do
then
that.
because then T'Pol then divorces her husband. So
T'Pol's father. So under T'Pol and Memory Alpha, it's got her, next of kin or whatever, and it says father, and then his character page is literally called T'Pol's father.
Wow.
Man.
Ooh.
There you go.
They grew to.
I mean, Hoshi, we saw her dad in her fevered, weird dream where he would not accept the English language.
Yeah. So one of the things I was going to do was just nix any sort of.
Has to be real.
It's got to be real. It's got to be a real
Okay,
real
so
relationship.
like the Janeway fevered.
Well,
Sorry,
we can touch on it because it's definitely that episode is actually really about her relationship with her father. But if it's just like a cameo, like, oh, this is what my dad looked like, and he says weird gibberish or something, that sort of stuff. The only other crew person to be a father was Phlox, who had, I think, 17 children.
That's right. And we actually don't get a lot of fatherly wisdom from him. Like, I mean, we get some, but not as much as you would think. It's like you said, Philip, there's just a young crew.
Yeah, and I think that is a weakness of Star Trek often, because, I love it. But that is a weakness of Star Trek. They want to go young all the time. And they all want to be single mingles, We're always having romances, instead of having like a stable. Now, we'll go into examples, but of having a stable relationship, whatever, and O'Brien, blah 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 blah. We'll talk about it. But anyway, they want single mingles, and so I think that's always a sort of a weakness of Trek, where they don't want to show a family. Because families are boring, I guess.
Well, we definitely do get our fair share. We'll definitely get into it. But can you guys think of any other instances? Trip. I you know what? I actually had forgotten, and I'm pretty sure this is probably what you were referencing now that I think about this, Philip. But Trip and his son in E Squared. I don't know if that's what
I didn't even think about that, but no, yeah, you're 100% right.
Yeah, that was actually a really interesting.
Yeah,
dynamic.
that was an interesting dynamic.
Because presumably his son had daddy issues because Trip died, young. I mean, young for a human, or regular for a human. For a Vulcan, they live a long time. So,
yeah. But is there anything else in Enterprise you guys can think in terms of a fatherly relationship?
Again,
I was just thinking with Phlox, we don't actually ever see the child, but there was like this thing of like, all the children, and then he had this bad relationship with one of his children. I forget if it was a son. I'll just say it was a son, who apparently was like very speciesist or racist or whatever about, that one species that, Phlox encountered. It's sort of like that Neelix episode, but with Phlox. And Phlox is like, no, I don't have a problem with you, but I have a child who, does.
The Antarans.
Yes, or something like that.
Interesting. I don't remember.
That was the only. Yeah.
Anything else, Darren, you got in your head about Enterprise and fathers?
Little things. Like, I'm pretty sure, when they're trying to figure out the augment virus with the Klingons, like the Klingon commanders, has his son try the procedure.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Enterprise is not the strongest list of fathers, so we don't need to stick it on too long. But.
Well, for weird father relationships involving augments, Brent Spiner, playing soon the father to his progeny.
True.
Yeah, they're also disqualified. If you're playing your own parent, you are disqualified.
Oh wow! No, wait. So we're not going to talk about Noonien Singh when we get to TNG.
We'll see.
Man,
we'll
I
see.
know.
I don't know. We're rapidly running out of time. We haven't
because
even
Data had daddy
we
issues.
haven't
I'm
even
telling
moved
you.
through Enterprise yet. So let's move on and talk about now, especially for this discussion, but maybe for all future discussions, it may be simpler to just lump. But specifically for this one though, we're going to lump Discovery and TOS together. Mostly because there's only really one father that we're going to spend 99% of the time talking about.
Um,
Michael's father, yes.
Yes,
stop. Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
Well,
Sarek, obviously.
Sarek, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So and
Father of the Year.
Sarek himself is such a big character. I mean, we could talk forever and ever and ever and ever. And he's a terrible father. I think we could probably well establish that right off the bat. That
Not the worst Star Trek father. We'll get to you, War.
Yeah. But Sarek in all of his incarnations has been a deeply, he's been handed a pretty difficult set of circumstances. I think for a Vulcan, he has not handled it well. He doesn't seem to really learn from his mistakes. So, but he's an interesting character, and he has a relationship with each one of his children except for Sybok.
Well, and we don't know. I mean, that's a story that can be written. I guess it won't be a Discovery because they're in the future now. Which I would admit, I'm going to throw out there, and I know we've said it, lost opportunity. It doesn't have to be a big Sybok thing, but just throw us something.
Sybok short track.
Interesting. Yeah, you know what? I'd love it. I would 100%. 100% Daniel. I would love the Sybok short track. Because I mean, what was that story? Again, we have to invent this canon from Star Trek V about like, was he married to the Vulcan princess or whatever, and then I guess she died, or I don't know. We don't know. And then he married humans from now on, or something. Once you go human, you never something. But yeah, I don't know. I would. I don't know. How do y'all think your perception of Sarek as a father evolved from? We all watch things in a different order, I know, but presumably from TOS. I know y'all haven't watched a lot, but the Babel. There's only one episode. The movies, the TOS Prime movies. I'll be specific. Then you have the Kelvin, and then you have Discovery. Do you think it got better or worse?
I think it's actually more dependent on his age. I think the older Sarek is a better person, and he's
wiser.
better. He's recognizing like his own faults. And obviously at the end we learned that he cared a great deal for his one child that he seemed to remember out of the three. But and
now just for 2 seconds, Darren, I want there to be a George Lucasing of Star Trek.
Okay.
Where like 10 years from now, someone goes back to Sarek. That's the end of the episode, right?
Yep.
Sarek. And gets Patrick Stewart to say the word Michael.
And Sybok. Like during that scene, yeah.
But he's like, Michael, Sybok, Spock. I never told Michael that. Wait, sorry. Section 31 told me not to talk about that. Yeah, maybe that doesn't work as well as we thought, but
So I don't know if there's a ton more to say about Sarek other than maybe good luck next time.
Well, I mean, it's a cultural thing. I mean, in as much as it's not real, but it's a cultural thing because what are Vulcan fathers supposed to be to their children? I mean, we can talk Tuvok. We never really saw per se what he was like as a father, only knowing that he was. But you have a half human, half Vulcan child who has, and I say this, not to make fun, in general, has special needs, in many ways, as a dealing with his identity, his existence, but like literally though, having to deal with raging emotions and then logic and the biology and all that stuff, and just so with Sarek like not willing to be like I can mate with a human and that's fine, but the children, I don't know, it wasn't really my idea. So yeah, I don't know what was his. I mean, and Vulcans are always hard to read. That's why you got a mind meld. But like, what was his thoughts? Like, did he really care for Spock and just didn't know what to do? Like, a lot of fathers. I don't know. Darren, you jump in here.
It's hard for me because Sarek, even with all this stuff we've gotten from Discovery, I feel like I still don't know him as well. Like, we're getting these slivers of this relationship. Like, I still want more on him and Spock and their relationship, but instead we got all this new stuff with Michael, and that just, I mean, it adds more to the story, but, I still think we get a more powerful scene in the end of Star Trek 5 or there's 4. Sorry, 4. When they
we'll get there.
When they come back and they speak to each other, for the first time in years. Like, that's a great scene.
You're right. I can't remember whether it was 4 or 6 where Sarek's like, as I recall, I was against your entry into Starfleet.
Sarek has great fatherly moments.
He dropped the one-liners like that.
Yeah. I'm thinking also even of the scene in 2009 where he's talking to Spock and he's telling him about Amanda. And he's like, no, I married your mother because I loved her, you know. And there's these like slivers of emotion that he lets through, and I think that's when he's at his best. But obviously, that's few and far between.
Yeah, because I think with the thing with Discovery, I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. I just have to figure out why it makes sense that Sarek is closer to his fully human child, but has, I don't want to say issues, because I don't know what's going on in Sarek's head, but presents issues about the humanity of his half-human child. You know, why is that versus the fully human child? But then Sarek's always hard to read, because then it's hard to get how he's marrying all these human women, because obviously he's very different then, right? And there's something going on in Sarek that makes him different than other Vulcans. But can't square that circle. Yeah.
He's a complicated man, for sure. So, and a very important father. In fact, I would probably argue really one of the most important father figures that we have in Star Trek.
His children are very talented.
They certainly are. They seem to get themselves into a lot of trouble anyways.
I mean, you want to talk about, dynasties of the stars. I mean, it's the Sarek family right there. So,
though interesting to note, none of them ever had children that we know of.
That is true, huh? Look at that. Okay. Okay, so let's move on and talk. Are there any other fathers in Discovery? I know we're only 2 seasons in, but I had to rack my brain. I'm like, we see Michael's biological father
right.
For like a
flashback scene.
Yeah.
We see Saru's father.
Oh yeah, the priest guy, right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And they have a pretty normal father-son relationship, even though he's kind of going through his coming out on his own phase.
I would love if one of the bridge crew, the communications guy or the weapons guy, has 5 children. we just don't know.
Yeah, we just don't know about it.
That'd be cool.
Or what's his face? Linus. Linus could have 4 hatchlings.
4 hatchlings.
Something like that. Yeah. But yeah, this is another case of a really young crew. We don't really know a lot about a lot of these characters.
Well, and we haven't gone very deep in any of these characters except Michael and maybe a little bit with Saru. So it's I mean, that's just
I wonder, and I know this is reaching it, but I'm going to do it anyway. So we know the end of Pike's story from the Menagerie. I wonder if he and Vina had fake children.
I imagine they talked about it. In fact, they talked about getting married and having kids. So that would definitely make sense.
So I think Pike would be a good dad.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it for Discovery. Not surprising. We don't really know a lot about what's going on there. So, but we do get a lot of Sarek. So I guess that makes up for the lack of other things. Hey, I'm gonna stop right here.
I wait. I got it. Ash.
Do we know his?
Oh yeah.
No, he
is a dad.
The baby that goes down to the time planet.
Yes, that's right. He is a dad. I'm like, wait a minute. Ash was an orphan. I thought.
Much like Worf, he abandoned that child.
But he abandoned him to the time monks, so it's totally cool.
I don't think I ever heard them called time monks, but that's all I'm ever going to call them now.
It's kind of surprising that they resisted temptation to introduce him to his son in that episode. There was just so much going on. I guess they didn't really have the time for that. But
yeah,
I don't have time to talk about children.
Okay, I'm going to stop right here and ask you guys what you want to do, because we are not going to get through all this list in time.
Yeah, sounds like a part 2.
Do we want to just split it in half and I'll just do next week too?
Yeah, that's fine. Do we want to do... So we got 20 minutes left to hit the hour. Do we want to just do TNG, which is probably going to be a lot? No.
We'll do TOS, because that'll split it directly in half. We have...
Okay. We'll have TNG, DS9...
and Voyager next time.
Yeah, definitely leave room for DS9, because...
Yeah, I was even thinking on Voyager, I'm like, oh my god, I forgot how many people having babies and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be a generational ship, so... That was Tom's pickup line, so...
We'll spend the rest of the 20 minutes we have doing TOS, and then we'll cut it there. Okay, so moving on, we'll talk about just Star Trek, the original show, and of course all the supplementary stuff we know now from the reboots and stuff. Because the first thing that popped into my head, honestly, because I'm like, what do we know about Kirk's father from TOS? And I'm like, oh, not much. I think he's mentioned in passing once. But of course,
as I recall, your father was a great influence on you.
Yeah. Yes, but of course in '09 we have that wonderful scene.
Even the whole opening of the movie.
Yeah, if you're not.
Yeah, Thor.
Yeah,
I mean, come on
there.
now.
Yeah. So we can talk a little bit about George Kirk, I think.
And unlike Star Trek 4, that doesn't exist. Cool. So that character has some more time.
Yeah.
No, I think George Kirk is. I mean, again, we get this awesome moment of a Starfleet. Well, he's like what, a lieutenant or something? Like he's not that high up. Like. Saving. Like, what does Pike say? Your father was a captain for 5 minutes and he saved 78 people or something like that. He's like, I dare you to do better. And he's like, 78 rookie numbers. I could totally save more people than that.
I can do 80.
I could save the universe.
But yeah, no, I mean George Kirk is great, and I would say even though it's really that one scene. I mean, I know it's more scenes, but like that one sequence, I feel we know more about George Kirk just from that than we do about a lot of the other fathers that we maybe see more just because it's so concentrated. Like we can tell his relationship with his wife. We can tell, like he's holding it together and he's holding her together through that and talking with her, even though he's like staring down, ramming speed into the ship. So
he has good instinct about children's names.
Tiberius, that's the worst.
Yeah, we only get 10 minutes of him, but it was a fantastic 10 minutes, and it's such a great scene. He obviously hadn't even got to meet his son, and it was just dramatic writing, but it was also very effective that she was going into labor when all this stress happened, and it was very emotional. I mean, it was really, really, really brought you into that world very, very quickly, and you're like, wow, this is this guy obviously is a good man.
Yeah. I mean, and so Jim in the Kelvin verse has daddy issues, like clings to Pike and all that.
Yes, he definitely does, and because his mom went from like a 10 to like a 1.5, because his stepfather seemed pretty abusive.
I forgot about that storyline.
And
that was his stepdad car, right?
Yeah.
It was a classic.
Citizen,
you are so in trouble.
So we didn't really get a lot of George Kirk in the original series. Again, just we mentioned that they mentioned him. But I would have liked to have known what did happen to him. I don't think it's ever mentioned. I'm sure there's books and stuff, but I don't think it's ever mentioned that he was dead, or I don't think it was, but we don't know a lot about it.
In TOS, like in proper TOS, all we get is Kirk's brother who died on whatever planet, and his nephew was still. I can't remember. I can't remember the episode at all. Though humorously to me, and I know you love this casting, Daniel. It's like for 2 seconds, but they have William Shatner like in a mustache, like on the floor.
I didn't know
as his brother dead.
Wow.
Yeah, because his nephew is catatonic. I can't remember the episode at all. That's all I remember though. Yeah, and of course we have Kirk as father. What little we have of that.
So how do we think Kirk does as a father? Because Kirk excels at a lot of things. He was kind of a dick, I think.
Well, Daniel, I this is where I'm going to bow to your theory of life. 23rd century, the mom says stay away, he stays away. I mean, there's an agreement.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. We don't really know what happened between Carol and Kirk, so...
Well, yeah, there's the part where she took off her dress, and she's like, why are you staring at me?
That was in the shuttlecraft, that's right.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with the idea that she wouldn't want him in the picture for whatever reason, and that's totally fine. The problem is that it seems unhealthy. There seems a lot of tension there they don't like each other. Like Kirk doesn't even like David really.
I mean,
like,
he gets really broken up when he dies.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Well, like if your kid grew up to be a blue shirt, I mean,
Oh.
hey, how would you?
Hey. I don't know what I mean. Yeah, obviously it's a big plot point. Doesn't it feel kind of a like silly plot point in Star Trek 3? It's like it felt kind of empty to me. It doesn't really feel like the scene is impactful because I think Shatner did a pretty good job acting in that scene. But it's like I don't know. What's his face is not a like scary villain, so it just I don't know. I just
Doc Brown.
Yeah, Doc Brown. So I don't know. Kirk as a father is like it's something that they did.
I think if they had killed Savick, we would have been like, oh, what what's going on in this mess? We are burning this place down.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they killed David. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
that
nobody cared. It was not very effective drama, I don't think.
So the person who we definitely know is we definitely know Kirk's a dad, but who definitely knows a dad, both from Kelvin and Prime, is Sulu.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
that's
right.
Has a daughter,
right? Demora.
Which I just read that I guess initially in Generations they had asked George Takei to come back and for Sulu to take the helm one more time, and he said no because I'm the captain now. Like that'd be like like this. Yeah, step down. So they wrote the role of Demora for that, which I mean, I liked how they did that with Demora, but it was interesting to hear the original plan.
It's one to be an Enterprise without a Sulu at the helm.
Yeah, they must have. I mean, that line was probably in the original draft, and they just, we'll just put a different Sulu there.
And then Beyond, we get Sulu and his husband with their daughter for 2 seconds. So
that's a nice touch. That was one of the. I mean. Beyond had a lot of really nice little details, and that was one of them where it was like, hey, this is paying homage. This is something that we know. This is established canon.
Yeah.
And then there you go. You show it. So.
And then something else I'd have to watch, because it's one of those, because it's in, Darren, this might actually be animated too as well. But anyway, I'm thinking Bones. Okay.
Yeah.
So the fact that he was divorced, now I know that 2009 does that. I feel like in TOS they never said it, but that was a plan. But I don't know if it ever got done. Like as far as being referenced.
Yeah,
that
I don't
was
know if it was referenced, but it kind of implied.
And then that he has a daughter. Again, I think that's the novel verse, but I think that was also a plan in TOS, like season 4, whatever. But again, it's not canon.
Well, there's also the we got it from Star Trek V, the pivotal moment between Bones and his father that shaped him when he had to pull the plug, and then the cure was found. Not just a treatment, freaking cure. Like days later, and I mean, again, we don't really see anything but him in his bed, but that moment shaped him.
Did you not know about this?
It was actually, it's one of the best parts of Star Trek V, and that's we had known Bones, not we personally because we weren't alive, but we had known the character of Bones for 20 plus years at that point. But that's one great piece of character, like filling in that character, because it totally fits. You could see Bones going through that, and you could see him being shaped by that, and what a tremendous impact that would have had on him. So yeah, that was I'd actually completely forgotten about that scene. So good call, Darren. And
yeah, because I think with McCoy, it's almost odd. We almost don't always think of him as the scientist because he's always the foil to Spock, the consummate scientist. But that's a very human decision, right? I mean, as a doctor and as a son and as a human, when do you make the decision to metaphorically or literally pull the plug on your ailing, in pain father who's pleading with you, please do this, and how do you, as a doctor, do you think like, well, and then as a son, do you think? And so I think it was very interesting for Bones to play that.
Yeah. So I'd forgotten about that one. I'm sure I'm missing something else. What else? What do we see in other fathers in TOS?
Not
that I
really.
know.
I mean, I guess if we're for a final thing in TOS, I would say in the movies, I'd say Pike is kind of a father figure to Kirk, he's not his biological father, but you see a connection there in those two films.
Yeah, he's definitely like a surrogate father.
Yeah.
But I had to be honest. I got to be honest with you guys. We could do father figures, but it would expand this list exponentially.
True. But I mean,
is this going to be Star Trek Picard? Because that's just mine.
I mean, it's definitely written that way, but there's a lot of other. Most of the captains are father figures for everybody on the crew. So,
spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Well, except Archer, I would argue is not.
Yeah, because they're much closer in age. I think. Well, I mean, Kirk was too, though. But
was he? I mean, was he?
Yeah, he was supposed to only be like 30-something, 35.
Yeah, but I'm saying, was he a father?
Oh yeah, no. Well, Kirk really wasn't.
I mean, unless your dad ran around with a lot. I mean, I don't know, but yeah. I mean, he was married to the Enterprise, so I guess
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that might be it. Here's the thing, guys. I plan on getting through this whole list today. Turns out, when you're dealing with a basic human relationship like a father and a child, there's a lot to deal with. There's a lot of stuff to mine here, and
it's not like something where you can just introduce a child, but then you actually have to stick with it as a story. Like, you can't just then ignore it and then have it come back in like 3 seasons later and then ignore it again. Then have it come back in another series. That'd be crazy.
You can't just dump it off on your elderly parents. Oh man, yeah, we'll get there. We'll talk about that next episode. But yeah, let's see. Do you have any closing thoughts for these 3-4 shows that we talked about? Anything in Enterprise? Here, real quick for a closing talking point. Of the shows that we've discussed today, who do you think was the best representation, the healthiest representation?
Captain
of
Benjamin
father?
Sisko.
No. Of the ones.
No, that's the bar. I'm sorry. It doesn't even matter. He wasn't in. I don't care. He's the bar.
We haven't talked about Deep Space Nine. Of all the stuff we talked about today, who do you think?
You don't think O'Brien, really?
We'll get there. That's next week. We'll get there. So I want to know what you guys think. Is the best, healthiest, most natural, real life father-son relationship that we talked about?
I mean, healthy. No, culturally healthy, because that's its own thing. I think Phlox. Because I think Phlox is a very open person. Now, I mean, he had conflict with some of his children. And that wasn't so open. But I think Phlox is, as we may get to in other characters, I think he's a very open person, a very honest person. Obviously, when you have these multiple relationship society, I guess you have to be, right? It's hard to keep secrets if you're going to keep healthy, the husbands and wives and children's of the husbands and wives and all that stuff. It's almost like a Beta Z relationship. You just got to be open or else the whole thing falls apart. But because of then, in some ways he's quote unquote abandoning his family by being on the Enterprise. But that's that culture, I guess. They don't know. No one's when one of his wives came. I don't know if they had any children together. But yeah, I think it was one of those things of being open and honest. Can't hurt. Of course, I don't know. Darren can just use the actual father will tell us. But
yes, the definitive
lie to
answer
them constantly is the secret.
No, I don't know. It's hard to say because we really don't have a lot of, we really don't have any main characters that are fathers like in that regard that we just see a ton of in these series. But no, it's just, yeah. I
mean, I would. Well, I'm taking up all the time. But Discovery, because I know it's not Discovery's thing, and I'm not a fan of Discovery. I got it. Of course, I'm going to criticize it, right? But it's not their thing to show a family. But I think that's sad in a lot of ways. Because I mean, they're busy with war. They're busy with Michael's story. They're busy with blah. But of course, I'm always going to do this. If I had to pick a family, right? Of course, obviously, you already get guys who I'm going to pick for Discovery. It would be Stamets and Dr. Hottie. I'm sure he has a name. But yeah, whatever. That to me, because they were working their relationships out between death and life and death again, as you do in a relationship. But that would have been interesting to see that relationship, because we sort of see them. It's not the early part of their relationship. They've been together for some time. That would be the next step or a step Doesn't have to be the next step, but a step in a relationship, and so that would have been interesting to see.
Yeah. Hey, who knows? We may still see it.
Yeah.
Oh. I was just thinking.
What's your favorite or your?
I would put Phlox way up on that list. And while we were talking, I was thinking it makes sense because Phlox seems one of the most well-adjusted characters. I would argue in Star Trek. A lot of the drama, like Phlox doesn't have a lot of internal drama. Like he just seems like a really well put together sort of man. Like he knows where he is and he's curious, but he's not like, he's not tortured by his past or anything like that. He's just kind of set. He's Phlox and he's great.
Optimism, Daniel.
Yeah. I love Phlox. He's one of my favorites. But other than Phlox, I would say with what little we know about him and what little screen time we've seen, I'd have to say George Kirk is one of the, especially in terms of like screen time versus impact. Like even if the living George Kirk, influenced his son to go into Starfleet and do these amazing courageous things, and the premature death of George Kirk influenced his son in kind of in the same way. Like he's obviously doing something right. Like the guy, either that or he's completely useless if he can't do it when he's dead or alive. But no, I think that it shows that there's just a level of impact that he has on. Maybe it's one of those sorts of things of like, it doesn't matter what really happens. Destiny is destiny, and that's kind of the lesson they're teaching us here. But yeah, I liked it. I mean, his sacrifice was amazing, and it obviously showed that he had great love and respect for all the people that he was serving with, and including and up to his son.
Yeah, and I just think, my dad's with me, still alive and everything. But if he had died early, I really hope I would have had either a salt and or pepper shaker from the vehicle that he died in to remember, because that's
why you just gotten beat up in a bar in the middle of Iowa. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Darren? Who's your favorite? You're a dad. Tell us who you want to have a dad beer with.
A dad beer with? I think I go with Phlox. I think Phlox, again, we don't see a ton of him being a dad, but he's just a dad the whole time to everybody.
He's sort of like, if we're doing like the stereotype, he's sort of the stepdad of the crew. Hey, champ,
they come to talk.
What's going on?
How you doing? Let me reset that tibula for you while we're chatting about something.
Tell me about any sexual tension you're having.
Yeah, he's just friendly. He's warm. He's welcoming. He's jovial. Yeah, he definitely gives off his sort of dad energy.
Yeah,
I definitely agree.
I feel like he should have like a sweater vest on.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Like he's that. Yeah, no, he should have sandals and socks on. Like he's that dorky, nerdy, like awkward but still funny and awesome to hang out with kind of dad. So yeah. All right, great. So hey, you know what? We're going to talk about this again next week. We'll finish off the series. We're going to take a big
second in the series of Who's Your Daddy here on City.
Yeah. We're going to take a big leap because we're going to be moving into the more modern stuff. Well, I guess it's really not
the ones with dads.
The ones with dads. I mean, that's the ones with families. We'll be talking about the shows with families. The shows.
The ship of families.
One has an episode called Family. That's literally in the show.
Yeah, the shows that are specifically about families. So
with children.
We will have a lot to talk about. So, but until then, Darren, if people want to get a hold of you and wish you a very happy Father's Day, which they should do, how would they do that?
Oh, they can find me on Twitter, Instagram under username Dr. Sci-Fi, DRSCIFI.
And Philip, if people wanted to get a hold of you and say, hey, Phlox is pretty great, how would they get a hold of you?
Well, I am, of course, a stepdad to a cat.
Oh, cat! That's right. I forgot.
Look, wait. If you won't expand it to father-like figures, but we're going. For fur babies.
We'll talk about the Data Spot relationship next week.
Tell him he's a good cat.
That's a 15-minute thing. That's right. And we can talk about dealing with when your cat changes genders. That's fine. It's a fluid world. That's fine. But Data's a cool dad about it. So they can find me on Twitter at NC Public Servant.
And in fact, we will be talking about Data because he is a father as well as a son. Very important. Yes, lots of families. Anyways,
and a daughter. He built her.
He's not the daughter. he is the father to the daughter. But
Yeah.
Yes.
anyways, yes, you can catch us all here next week. You can find me at on Twitter at OneUpDan. That's the number 1, not the word. And so that's it for this week. I'm Daniel Prue.
I'm Philip Gilfus.
And I'm Darren the Dad Moser.
Stranded here on Steady Alpha 3.
That's such a dad thing to say.
Dad jokes.
Come!